So we've added some services and transactions to this account, so now let's delve a little deeper into the billing parameters. So if I look under billing and then parameters, if you recall when we set up our default parameters, they all got inherited onto this account, but I can modify them here if I need to, as long as I'm a super user, by clicking edit. And here I can change any of these billing parameters I need to if I want to override them for this customer. So there's options in here like to set the day billing runs that we had in the setup. We also have options here to turn on things like tax exemption. If this customer's tax exempt, we can turn this on, they won't get taxed. We could change their bill mode and that kind of thing. There's also a couple of other settings. I can change the next bill date. So if I need to push this out, I can do that. Right now we have day billing runs set to 1, so they're going to bill on the 1st of June. But if they really shouldn't bill until, let's say, the 1st of July, maybe we already billed them for this month and you're doing an import, I can come in here and push that next bill date out if I need to. Can also override the delinquency date. So the purpose of this is if a customer's delinquent and you've set up Sonar so that when they become delinquent, you suspend their service and they call you and say, hey, can you turn my service back on? I'll make full payment by Friday. I could say, okay, I will, but what I'm going to do is set you over in delinquency date until next Friday, and then what that's going to do is remove the delinquency on their account until that Friday hits, and then it's going to remove that override, and then if they're still delinquent, they haven't paid, they'll go back into a delinquent state. Otherwise, if they have paid, then they'll be good to go. So one setting I wanted to mention here is this number of months to bill. So this can be configured in the parameters here. And by default it's 1, and that means we're going to bill them every month for one instance of all our services. However, let's say you want to bill somebody on an annual basis. I could come in here and set this to 12, and what that will then do is on the next bill cycle date we'll bill them for 12 times all the services on their account, and then we won't bill them again for another year. So if you have a customer with a bunch of monthly services that wants to pay you annually, you can set this to 12. When they bill or get that annual invoice, they can make payment, and then they won't get billed again for a year. There's another scenario, which is that you may have services that bill on different basis, and that it's not the account that needs to have a months to bill set, it's the services themselves. To give you an example, let's say you have a domain renewal service where yearly the customer has to pay to renew a domain name. You want to bill our internet service and everything else monthly, but you want to bill that domain renewal service yearly. So let's take a look at that scenario. If I go into financial and then services, I've created a domain renewal service here already, and let's take a look at that. It's $100 every 12 months, so once every 12 months we'll bill $100, and I've added a metadata field down here called domain name, and so this allows me to track the domain name for the service. So let's jump back into my account quick. And we'll go to billing and then services, and I'm going to add that domain renewal service. I don't want to prorate this. They've already paid for this year. You know, they're due to renew again in a few months, so I'm not going to prorate the charge. Quantity is 1, and here I have that domain name metadata field we defined, so I'm going to put example.com in there. And you'll notice now with a multi-month service, we have the next bill date shown here as well as that metadata I entered. Well, July 1st has been brought in here because that's the next bill date we have on the account under parameters. But I really don't actually want to bill them until, let's say, January 1st of next year, because that's when the domain renewals really due. So I can come in here and say set next bill date. I'm going to set this to next January. And then you'll see this has been updated and now be January 1st. So now every month I'm going to bill them on a monthly basis, and I'm going to take the amount of their gold internet and bill them every month, but once January 1st hits, I'm going to also bill them an extra $100 because that's what the amount is of that yearly recurring service. And these don't have to be yearly. I could make a 2-month, 3-month, 6-month service, whatever I need. But that's how you would set up those services that recur on a non-monthly basis. So if you have all monthly services on the account and you want to bill the whole account on a different basis, I would set my number of months to bill under here. Or if you have services that need to bill on a separate basis, you would create those services, set the monthly, the amount of recurrence on them, and then you would come in, add them to the account, and set the next bill date. Okay, so in the next video, let's go through a real billing cycle. We'll see what this account looks like, and then we'll move on to looking at some financial reports and that kind of thing.